Hey everybody, how's it going today? Who was first besides me in the chat today? DJ Okenzie. I was cheeky today. I said I'm first, but you were really first, even though you said you're second. I don't count. Baumeister's here. Arsene Martinet is back. Or is it Martinet? Karsten Becker's here. What's up? Stereo Decor. Francesco Maurice, or Maurice. Sorry, I always mess up the names. First Saturday you're catching live. Glad you can make it. Glad to have you with us. UK Strings is back. Luminous Cloud, a regular, is back, as almost always. Minor Joy, welcome. Hey, Simple Sam, another long-time viewer. Participatory viewer, right? I've had you in my classes. I know you. Steven, yay. What's up? Sean Hodson's here. Mike Harding. Who else we got? Did I say Luminous Cloud already? I'm going to say it again. Paul Hackner, good day. David Vora. Stefan Katic. Reefer Bass. Tom Relic. From Merseyside, also first-time live viewer. Thank you very much. Nice. So you know what's happening today. It's one of our special extended edition feedback days where we bring in a guest and talk about your music. We got a lot of really good submissions. So let's get right into it. Enough of my talking. Welcome to another Selway's Techno Saturdays here on 343 TV, brought to you by 343 Labs Music Production School in New York City and Berlin. And hey, global, because we're online like everybody else, right? We got our online courses. You can come here to New York and take synthesis and sound design with me, or Ableton Live Music Production, or mixing and mastering with Abe Duque, or any one of our number of very talented and capable instructors here and in Berlin. We're starting I keep mentioning this, but it's a big deal for us that we're doing a year program now, a more intensive program, more classes, more access, more guidance, one-to-one, mentorship, performance opportunities, music, working in recording studio opportunities, all sorts of things that are part of this program that we are really psyched about. We just had a meeting the other day with our first round of 1 year program students. It was really nice to meet them and chat a little bit and get to know them. And, we'll be checking in with them regularly as we prepare to get started in the fall. So yeah, if you want to know more about that and all the other things we're doing, our regular online courses, the year program, the in-person courses here or in Berlin, you know where our links are, where our info is down in the description. There's sites for New York and Berlin. And there's our Discord channel, which, we are utilizing today. I have our Discord server, and then I have a channel on there, Selway Feedback. And everyone who submitted work for today, that's where we're getting it from. That's the place to do it. Generally, we got the SoundCloud links posted in our Discord server in the Selway Feedback channel. So there's always a lot going on there. If you haven't already, check that link in the description below as well to join our Discord server and be a part of the community in general. So without further ado, let's bring in my guest, who I'm very pleased and honored to have on today. And we have mutual friends, right? This is the first time we've gotten to hang out and talk about things, get to know each other, and I'm really glad that he's here. Welcome, everybody. D from Drunken Kong. How's it going?
Hey, John. I'm doing well. How are you?
Hey, I'm fine. I'm in a good mood. You can see that, from getting ready for the show to now, I'm kind of amped up a little bit more. I got my nervous energy happening. And anyway, yeah, I'm really pleased to have you here. I've been enjoying your tracks for a little while. And I know you through Christian Smith, obviously, my longtime friend and collaborator, and, since the 90s. And he's been a big supporter of you and your project. So some of the people out there that watch the show may be familiar or maybe not. So it'd be good to give a little introduction and, talk to you about what you've been up to, what you're doing, and what,
Sure.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So my name's D, and I work on a project named Drunken Kong. And I work with my partner. I have a partner named Kyoko. She couldn't be here today. But yeah, we're based in Tokyo, and yeah, we've been releasing a lot of music on Tronic. We've had releases in the past with Terminal M, few releases with Octopus, and now we just actually came out with our new EP on Drum Code,
Nice.
which came out last week. Yeah, last Friday.
What's that one called?
So, it's called I Want to See.
I Want to
That's
See.
the EP name.
Cool.
Yeah, and yeah, it's doing very well. I'm really happy with all the reactions and the responses we've been getting. So yeah, and we just play, gigs. We're mainly in Japan, but we do tours. We're actually heading to Europe in a couple of days. We're gonna be there for a month, and then I think like twice a year, 2-3 times a year maybe, we go to North America, and different parts of Asia, Australia, South America. So yeah, we're traveling around the world.
Nice.
And yeah, just keeping life busy.
Cool. I was curious. I'm going to stream in the background a little bit of your new release for Drum Code, I guess.
Yes.
And while we're doing this, I'm also kind of setting the playback levels, right? Making sure that everybody can hear us, that you can hear the music all right, you can hear me over the music okay. It's always a balancing act with all the levels on your live streaming. Hey, James Fear, nice to have you back in the chat. Nice.
Yeah, thank you.
So I'm curious, like, when did you get started producing?
I've been producing for like around 20 years, I would say. But I just kind of started with no knowledge, and at that time, it's like the internet wasn't like as good as now. There
Sure.
are no YouTubes and stuff, so it took a while to get kind of learning. I started off the software named Fruity Loops.
Fruity Loops,
But
yeah.
it was really easy for me to get in because it kind of looked like a game in the beginning.
What everybody calls FL now, right? It's FL Studio.
Yeah, FL Studio. Sorry, yeah, that's what they call it.
No, but I haven't used it since it was called Fruity Loops. I used to use it to generate like patterns, and then I'd turn those into audio, and I'd put them into Acid. Remember Acid? Do you know that app?
Yes.
So like before I started using Live to do like warping and time stretching and beat matching of loops, I used Acid.
Okay. Yeah. It was like Fruity Loops now. Yeah, FL Studio. Basically, that was like the start, and then gradually got into Cubase. Started kind of changing sequencers around, learning more, because at the time Fruity Loops, it was like you couldn't import audio files.
Right.
You had to put it through a sampler, so everything, I couldn't actually see the wave, the audio, and so yeah, it was very kind of limited at the time. So I wanted to kind of move on and see what I can do, kind of expand my possibilities, and gradually got into Cubase. Reason, Propeller Head Reason,
Sure,
was another one, that I heavily used, and then now I use Logic.
Okay, I was going to ask if you were still sticking with Cubase.
And I stopped using Cubase maybe like 10 years ago, and it's like that was the timing I actually switched from Windows to the Mac, so it was a good timing for me to learn Logic, and then gradually kind of started understanding, and by the time I moved to Logic, I had all the YouTube videos, so that I can go and see how things were done. And then now I also use Ableton. I rewire the two softwares.
Nice.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I use Ableton, more like a sampler, basically, because the loops and the tempo sync and everything, it just makes the process easier.
Right. I mean, they have brought some of those capabilities into Logic, but it's not the same.
Yes.
Live does it so easily.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, I always I kind of use it as like a big sampler to find loops and different kind of samples.
Sure.
And then I would just record everything into Logic, and then do the main sequencing, the mixdown, and everything on Logic.
Cool. I'm just bringing in another one of your tracks now from Tronic, which I think it's a bit of a different style than what you did for Drum Code, right?
Yes.
This is good. I actually hadn't checked this one out yet. I was like hearing it for the first time. We were talking about how with Christian, like it seems like with Tronic Records, he's been bringing it back a little bit more underground, a little more driving and raw now, and a little bit less melodic for the releases on Tronic. And that's generally where like I mean, most of the techno I like is there, stylistically. Not that I don't like melody too, right?
Yes, it's in a new direction right now, and I think it's going very well for Tronic. Overall.
Definitely.
Really, really cool stuff. Lots of cool music coming from Tronic. So yeah, every promo, it's like I'm really excited when I get it.
Have you when you perform, is it DJing or do you play live?
We used to play live.
Okay.
But we kind of simplified our setup because it was just really difficult setting things up for us, because we had 2 laptops, two audio interface with just a bunch of cables, and it was just like, if we can do the sound check, we can set everything up, but some situations, especially like when we first started playing outside of Japan, it was very difficult. There was no space, or I don't know, like some places maybe someone spilled a drink or something. It's just like we had a lot of those, and it was we were very stressed actually before we played. So yeah, it's just like it came to a point where we're like, and plus with all the laptops and all the equipment, traveling, it was just like going through security at airports too. It was crazy. So yeah, at one point it came as like, maybe it's just easier to do things just on CDJs, and then
Got it.
Yeah, I think it's like 5 years back, we switched.
Got it. Yeah, it is.
So now it's like, yeah,
live is complex. I mean, I know people have hybrid sets, and I see who's someone that's kind of like minimized and kind of perfected his Dubfire. I think he has this like hybrid of DJing and playing live, that it's very compact setup and like easy to travel with. Like that would be the way, if you're going to keep doing it, that would be a good way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes, for sure.
It's funny, this has turned into more of I thought we would just chat a little bit, but it's turned into a little bit more of an interview than I thought. But I want to ask you one more question that I'm curious about. Sure. How did you meet Christian?
I met Christian here in Tokyo at a club named Womb.
All right, that makes sense.
Yes. It's like they. I mean, still, it's like one of the most famous clubs here in Japan. And yeah, he's one day now. I've always been a big fan of Christian and Tronic, and so yeah, just one day I went to see him play, and then I just had the chance to have a conversation with him, and then from there I kind of started. I had a few tracks I was working on. I just sent him this, and that actually became the first Tronic EP release for us.
Great. He is really good with responding to demos. Like,
yes,
I think like I doubt he's ever let anything good slip through the cracks. Like he's definitely, that's part of his job. He does that part of his job really well.
Yes,
so,
yes, he does listen to every track.
I've seen him do it.
He takes his time. Yes.
It's very methodical. All right.
Yeah.
Let's get into the feedback, right? So
yes.
Anyway, I just wanted to give everybody a little opportunity to get to know you and hear just a bit of the music and where you're coming from, and establishing that connection here with me and Christian and this community. So let's get over into the Discord and these SoundCloud links. I'm just going to go in order of submission, right? Like the earlier you submitted, the earlier in the show you get to be heard, basically. So looks like our first submission is from Oscar Quidad and Untitled 2023-6, a very techno title. A lot of my track titles look like that before they get released. All right, let's see what this sounds like. And as we start to listen to this, I'll just remind everybody of the format that we're going to talk as we listen, so we save time. And we're going to start with our our positive comments, right? We're going to talk about what we like, what's working, and then we'll get into the constructive criticism, right? Thinking about what could be improved if it needs any work, depending on where each producer is in the stage of their process on the track or in their development. All right. This is off to a really good start. I mean, right away.
Yeah, I really like it. Yeah, very nice.
Got dance floor energy.
Yes, for sure.
I like the atmosphere. What do you think, D? What's standing out to you?
I think all the elements, they just go really well with each other. Like great groove, great vibes, and it's like since everything works so well, it's like you can keep it simple. Yeah, which is great. It's very difficult to do that.
I'm seeing someone watching on Twitch, Sorikaz. Oh no, sorry. That's a different one. Don't have my reading glasses on here. What do we got? Marcus Shogu. Hey, yeah, this sounds pretty professional. I expect feedback for noobs. I gotta tell you, we have some pretty high level people submitting here. So, it's a wide range though. It's, beginners to advanced. All right. There's a little bit of switch in the groove there.
Yes.
Like getting a little more inharmonic, right? Like it's generating tension. It's interesting how you can generate tension by taking something away like that.
Yes.
Solid arrangement. Wait, how many genres out there can you get away with like 2 notes in your melody? Or 1? That's always a crucial point, right? What do you think of that drop after the break?
I think it's great. Like it's perfect. Very simple, but the vibe was there, and when it came in, the energy's back, and I can totally imagine this doing well in the raw hypnotic charts beatport.
Definitely, it's got the raw hypnotic beatport genre, subgenre all written all over it.
Yeah.
But it's just straight up classic dance floor pumping techno, not too hard.
Yeah.
Not too overcomplicated. So, where are we? How many minutes have we been listening? About 3 minutes, 3.5. Let's hear what he does in this second break. If it's any different from the first one. Looks shorter, maybe. Really clean high end on the... I mean, I think this has been mastered already. It sounds like got that shine on the edges.
Yes.
Builds a little more noisy this time. Just a little more inharmonic. All right. Just going to skip in a little bit here at the end. It's pretty much coming down for a landing at the end. I mean, that's solid, that track.
Yes.
It's going to be hard to we're starting out really strong. It's going to be hard to think of criticism. And the reason why I pointed out how after the break, after this, there's 2 parts in the track where there's no kick drum, right? In a track like this, how well that comes back is crucial, right? Because of, in terms of the structure, that's the most dramatic change in the structure in the whole track, other than how the sounds are evolving. But Christian and I would argue sometimes about how heavily to emphasize a drop. And also nowadays it's very popular to do the anticlimax, right? Which this isn't doing, by the way. That's the only thing I can think of. Can you think of what can you think of if there was anything to fix in this track? Is there?
To be honest, it's very well produced. So it's very kind of difficult to find some. I think it just becomes more of a preference.
Yeah, that's where we're at. It's like this tiny percentage of whether you change it or not, and that's your taste in a way. I wouldn't mind a little tiny bit more energy when that kick drum comes back. Just a slight. Because the kick drum is also, I might feel differently hearing it on a big PA system in a nightclub or whatever, or on a festival sound system, it might be just right. But the kick drum is so compressed that the transient sounds a little soft right at the beginning there. That's literally that's all if I just had a little bit more percussive transient where that kick drum comes back in, so it's slightly punchier. That's all I would say. Otherwise, this sounds so good in terms of it's done, right? It's a finished mix. Everything sounds balanced. I would test this out in a DJ set and feel when that kick drum comes back, when the bass comes back in, does it have the full energy that I want? And my suspicion is it's just a little bit more, like a couple of dB of something that's just like, and someone in the chat said, we'll put some ride cymbals or like more high frequency energy. That's another way to do it. You could just add a crash or a sound effect. This doesn't have like lots of whooshy noises and ear candy in it. It's more straight ahead. So what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. It depends on how it sounds on a big system. I also thought maybe like but this is also like, it comes to like it's preference, but changing things more in the percussions too, because I heard a lot of changes in the hi-hats, the cymbals, but maybe some clap patterns, for example, that could give it a bit of a different feel to it too. Or maybe automating some of the synth stop sounds.
I see
with delays and reverbs, and during, not just in the break, but while things are happening. Yes,
that's good. Actually, that is good because the groove is so good that you can get away without that. But if you want to go the extra level, you could start to get a bit more detailed in the modulation and automation of the sounds and how they evolve, and small little tricky things to do. Yes. But again, that's taste as well. In a DJ set, mix in the mix with the DJ playing with effects and cutting things in and out, this also would just be a perfectly good banging tool to get people to dance to. So, all right, really good start. Thanks, Oscar.
Yeah, very nice.
Very nice. Let's get on to our next submission from Matthias Rendick. This is not a Vogue remix. David Bohr, while we're listening to this real quick, David Bohr has a question for you. SSL mixing for techno, what's your opinion?
SSL mixing for techno.
Is it necessary?
Actually, I have a SSL, like a preamp. So I do use a lot of outboard stuff, but I think like now softwares and everything just cover. If you have like UAD waves, like some of these, like do the job. So I think there's a lot of emulation, but I like to have the actual physical stuff. So I have like a hardware compressors, like a few of them, and it just gives a different feel, and it's more hands-on. I think so.
That's as much of a reason to use it as anything. Is it's not a plugin. It's if you're using physical hardware and doing signal routing in and out, you're going to get a different sound just from the process. All right, let's focus on the track. So far, so good, right?
Oh, nice.
It's got a little bit of 90s raviness to it with that whoa, whoa.
Yes.
It's fast. A lot of techno right now is getting faster and faster, which I'm fine with sometimes. I mean, I used to make like hardcore and even some hard trance stuff back in the 90s. So I like the arrangement so far. That the mix in and then transition to when that synth came in is pretty cool. I like the sustained high string note going in the background there. It's not too loud. That's a thing. When I'm making tracks with Christian, especially because we like to do that, is not to have certain high frequency elements too loud.
Yes. Yeah. I always get that advice from Christian.
Someone in the chat was taking bets on a Madonna sample. I think we just heard it. Some variation there, and it always works to bring in the 909 rides, right? Like that's just perennial, like with techno, just do it. keeping the bounce. Yeah, I heard I hear the samples. Feels a little dark in a way, right? It's like it's got this happy bounce to it, and it's driving and ravey, but then it's also kind of twisted.
Yes.
Which could be just what you want sometimes in the middle of the night when things are getting weird. Depends on the party. All right. Skip in a little bit at the end here. We're shorter track length this time. If you know, the tracks are getting shorter nowadays, aren't they? I've noticed.
Yeah.
All right. So I think, like, you know, this is creative. It's got some cool ideas. It's got a good groove and good momentum, right? Generally. But let's think about, and then if you have any other positive comments, like things that were standing out to you as working.
Yeah, I thought the idea in general was very interesting. How the sample was used and the vibe it created. I think it was really cool. And like overall, I think it was well balanced. You know, you can hear each sound clearly, and everything kind of just, you know, was like coherent. Everything worked together. So
Sure.
I thought this was really nice.
Okay, so what about improvements? I'm curious to know. I'll let you start. What do you think would make this better? Like what could intensify the feeling, so to speak?
Yes, I would say adding some mid-range to low-mid percussions, because there was like I felt there was a bit of an open space in that area of frequencies. Maybe filling some I think maybe even like a clap would just do the job.
You said that about the last one too. You like claps.
yeah, I use a lot of clap, but like yeah, something like a maybe like a mid kind of low mid tom, something to kind of fill that open space, because I felt like it was the kick and the bass, and then it was just the synths and the pads and the samples in like more the mid section, and then the hi-hats.
Sure.
Right? Like this that more of like these pop hi-hat patterns. So I think there was like an open space. So yeah, filling that in, and also maybe fills, using some fills.
That could work. Right. I mean, you have things dropping in and out. The transitions tend to be fairly smooth. So I think, you know, whether it's fills or some other way to make the transitions a little more rhythmic or exaggerated. I was thinking, I'm just going to listen to this again. Like, my favorite part of the track is this one, where it's really this groove with the short hi-hats that are in really wide stereo. Where'd they go? There.
Yes.
Like, I wanted it to be more like this most of the time, to be honest. And then, and I like it's like a light energy flash type of sound, right? And I like the high string that comes in, and it's sort of inharmonic with the other stuff. This first transition's pretty good, like smooth, and then it's sneaking in. Right? This is still good. I wanted more low-end power in this track. Like if you think like the last track was more thick and chunky and a little more thumpy in the low end, that's what that's what you're referring to with more low frequency percussion, is having a little more energy down there. Yes. Even like if you were to just like work on the kick drum in this track to make it a little more, you know, thick and heavy, that would do a lot for the energy of this track. So that was one thing I was thinking. And then It says this is not a Vogue remix, but you have this. I think you should be more in your face with the obvious Madonna samples. Make it, don't hide it. I mean, unless you think you're going to get, or you're going to may have a huge hit and then Madonna's lawyers come knocking and taking your royalties. I don't think you need to worry about that as an underground techno producer. I think you should just make it obvious that yes, this is Vogue. Make it up front, you know, you don't have to sneak it. Because you're not really taking the whole song, right? So yeah, more bass energy, a little more power.
Yes, definitely.
And then the vocals, the pitch shifted vocals are, you know, it's rhythmic because they're being chopped in and out, right? Those also, I feel like, could be more precisely edited. Like, and they kind of, it's an interesting thing to have them sort of fade in and out like that. Like it's percussive and then it fades away. And it's hard to really hear what it's saying. Maybe that's on purpose. Of course, you know, there's lots of opportunities to like just use vocals as sounds and it doesn't matter what they're saying. But like, I don't know. I felt like if they were more integrated into the groove, like what if you were to take those vocals and then like make them into a rhythm that fits the groove and then do the chopping up? Like, you know, it might involve, if you're using Ableton Live, it might be like warping the vocals to be quantized. So it's sort of hitting the beats in the right way. And then going back in and sort of being more precise about how they're coming in and out. I think it might work a little bit better. Mm-hmm. And also, again, let it, you know, be blatant. Let the attitude, let the Vogue Madonna attitude come out, right? If you're going to do it. Any last thoughts before we move on?
No, I totally agree with the low end part too, and the vocals too. Yeah, it's like
cool.
Editing can work better, and definitely the thump
would
make a big difference.
I think so. That's, you know, it'll be the difference between, you know, it might be the difference between whether a DJ plays it or not. I think that's, or if you are artistically going for a lighter bounce, fine, leave it. Right. This could also be in the area of taste. Let's just sort of think about what you're trying to get at. And if you're going for a certain style and energy, like listen to some other tracks that have that energy and then use that as a guide to like, oh, my track could be a little bit more like that, just in terms of the balance. Cool. Another nice submission from Matthias. Rendick, thank you. All right, let's move along to iakius, peaking in the underworld. Is that does that mean what I think it means? I like that sound. I like the kind of comb filter overtone thing, which you hear, and you know, it's like a classic sound, the metallic. You hear it in electro, you hear it in all, you know. Just as a point of reference, like this kick drum would have worked better, and something like this would have been the last track.
Yeah, I felt that too.
Just the kick drum alone has a nice bounce to it. Kind of trippy and moody a little bit.
Yes.
Mysterious vibes going on here. Yeah, I mean, so far overall, just the whole mysterious, moody vibe is working. Got a little drama here with some noise. Okay. Okay, it's still going. It's like maintaining its place in the underworld, apparently. I could see you, like, you know, it depends on the party, it depends on the time of the night. I could see this in like a your eyes is closed and you're a little dizzy and you're not sure where you are kind of feeling that would be working, right? Yeah, not bad. Let's click in a little bit later, hear how it ends. So yeah, what would you say is standing out for you?
Well, first, I love the kick drum. Like,
yeah,
really nice kick drum.
Very nice.
Really nice, chunky kick drum. The groove was great, and the mysterious vibe, like it was like unexpected. So yeah, that like really kind of caught my attention.
Cool. What would you say then? Were you to be working on this, what would you do? Oh, hold on, autoplay. What would you focus in on to like kind of kick it up and take it to another level?
It's going to be like something similar I said to the previous tracks, but I think some percussive changes. I would say like hi-hats too. I know there was like a ride, like a noise type ride. I think the synth elements were all there.
Sure.
I think it was just kind of like moving things around with percussions in general.
Okay.
To keep the excitement going on some parts and then bringing it back down.
Right.
And maybe like automating that mysterious synth, opening up the filter a bit more to create that intensity. Like this can probably also have create a different vibe. But overall, like the mood, like it was really something unique. Like I was surprised when that synth came in, which was really good.
We've got some good. Actually, I want to make sure we include the chat as well. We got some good suggestions here. Luminous Cloud thinks a tad faster would be good, and then you know there's another comment about how the energy's a little low. So, and I would agree with that. Like a little fast. If you as moody as it is, you could increase the apparent energy by making it a little faster. And then all the things you're saying are basically like creating more contrast and evolution through the track. There are some sections where it kind of drags a little, where you could make changes either by removing or adding things. Even like after this, where's the noisy part? I'm sorry, I'm like losing my place. I can't see in the waveform where we're supposed to be. All right, here. Right, we got this kind of ominous. The noise sounds like it has formant, like vocally vowel filters on it. Sounds like ghostly, or I like that. Sort of ominous. Right here was where you really needed some change. Either a higher intensity level, or I don't know, maybe you just need to, you could have done an anticlimax by just dropping back down to the kick and the bass kind of sounds. That kind of thing, right? Finding more contrast and a little more variation, and not necessarily you have to add a bunch of more things, but bringing things in and out and changing what you've got there.
Yes. Like a closed hi-hat will probably work too. If you have like a 16 closed hi-hat going on, like when it comes in, like that can also work. Or like
even just even like just, and there are some, I mean, there's a little right there, but it's kind of buried in the background. I feel like a little, maybe a little more. We were just talking about not having high frequency elements too loud, but in this case, bringing the high frequency elements forward will help the energy level. And you can either leave that as it is and then add another layer, or you can make that layer louder if that works. I would lean towards maybe like you said, like another hi-hat or something. Even like I don't know, as good as this kick drum is, maybe it's more bass energy too. Maybe a more rhythmic roll underneath, because it's got the boom, 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 boom. Maybe it needs like a like under it, like a rhythmic kind of sub, not a rumble. I think adding a reverb on that or a noise rumble on that kick is going to make it too muddy. But something more precise rhythmically underneath could be good. especially right there with that one after the noise. So anyway, yeah, it says right here, this is a draft. So we know that this guy is working on it. So go get to work. Good submission. We like the vibe. We like, it's creative, right? I like what you're doing with your sounds. Sure. Cool. What time is it? Oh, wow. It's already 12. Okay. It always takes longer than I think it's going to take. Let's get into the next one here from Polar. Unheard of. Well, I guess you're heard of now. Level's a little low, but I can't bring it up anymore. So we'll all just have to be quiet and listen. Actually, I'm going to see if I can get that level up a little bit. I just can't forget to turn this back down, or else the other tracks are going to be way too loud. Another dark, mysterious vibe, right? A little bit different, though. This one's a little deeper and smooth. It's more clean and open. I feel like we might be in a melodic techno territory slightly.
Yes.
Slower BPM. Nice detuned saw wave analog sort of main synth. And we have our anticlimax, which is definitely a thing with melodic techno. Going back down to just the low starting point. And I think the arrangement so far is effective, right? It's working, and I can tell where they're going with, and it's like changing enough also. There's some kind of background sounds that's creating an interesting harmony every now and then. Do you hear that? I'm going to skip in just a little bit and kind of concentrate on how it builds back up, which is definitely really important in a track like this. I did not expect. I thought it was going to get big again, and it's staying deep and mysterious and dark. Okay, but that also tracks with this style where it's not always obvious build-ups and breakdowns. Sometimes it's a little more sneaky and smooth in terms of transition. So I kind of like that about it. And now we're getting, this, just to repeat this part, this is very like 90s sounding to me right now. With that really resonant sweep up.
Yes.
So, I mean, I have nostalgia for that. And it finally gets there, like all the way at the end of the track, it finally gets back into full energy. So let's talk about this. I mean, what are some things that you like about the track?
To be honest, like I really liked the sequence,
Mm-hmm.
and how it would change, and the break actually, you know, as you said, like I was kind of expecting the energy to go up, but it kind of went back down, and the way it came in, it was really clean.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just like, wow, okay, wow. And yeah, with the resonant sweep, it had that old school vibe, and overall, I think everything was kind of blended in together very well.
If you look at this as like a more listening oriented or after hours kind of vibey thing and not a peak time track, it doesn't have to have the perfect build-ups and breakdowns that a DJ is looking for to get it for the precision, you know. It doesn't have to have that. And that latter half of the track where it wandered and took a nice journey, right?
Yes.
So
it was like a journey.
Yeah, it definitely is a journey, right? And it flows organically. It's not just taking all the typical this many bars, then this many bars, then this, you know, right? But what are some things now that you think could be worked on?
I would say maybe like adding some effects on some parts. I think wouldn't hurt, and also like fills, maybe like some conga fills or bongo fills with
you like
a lot
fills
of reverb
and claps.
delay, just to give it the
even just like, you know, I'll be making a track with Christian and he'd be like, we need a clap with a big reverb on it right there.
Yeah, just one,
just one of those. Like little splashes and things to spice it up, because you can like, that can do a lot, like ear candy stuff. I think a track like this could benefit from some more intricate details and like automation, little swirly sounds and things, because you're drawing the focus inward, and you want to add these little details that you'll notice when you're just kind of floating along on that journey, like things that are kind of tripping you out in a good way and tickling your ears. I think what you said about effects, there's a couple of synth sounds that I felt like were a little dry, right? And then there's also one synth that was a little, I mean, okay, whether it's in tune or out of tune with techno, sometimes it doesn't matter. In this case, with a more melodic and harmonic, like defined harmonic structure, you do want to be careful about tuning, I think. I'm trying to see right in here, I think. You hear right there, it's sharp. There's like that buzzier kind of sound and it has some reverb in the end and some delay at the end. It kind of spaces out. But that synth is a little out of tune. It bugged me. I felt like something that's this harmonic, you should be careful about that tuning. And that little change would have made that transition work better. And then I think the mix needs some work. There's some sounds that are hidden. You know, it's a little not defined completely.
Yes. I felt the main synth can be a bit brighter too when it opens up.
I'm just kind of like, this sounds okay in terms of balance, but
this is nice, yes.
Yeah, I would, you know, listen to some reference tracks and get an idea of, you know, the tonal. You could even use that isotope plugin, the tonal balance. I've been using that lately. You've seen me use it on the chat. In the chat knows what I'm talking about, right? Do you ever use that isotope tonal balance?
No,
it's just a visualizer. Just lets you see like a curve, and you can kind of you can learn the curve of different tracks, and it doesn't apply an effect, although you can use it to control other isotope plugins remotely. But I just used it on the master, and I just say, okay, obviously there's too much sub in this part of the track, right, and that kind of thing. You could use something like that.
Very important to kind of visually see it too.
Sure. not everybody has like the perfect monitoring environment. Actually, most of us don't. Cool. Anyway, nice submission from Polar.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. Let's keep plugging on. Let's keep moving forward. We have got Juicy by Flave. I already feel, I was like, I already feel rave energy coming.
Yes.
Like big smiley face and like the confident and the really loud. Sorry. Does that say, what is that saying?
Drugs and alcohol.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's funny. I'm not afraid of funny, fun techno. When I think of like, what are some DJs and producers out there that are really fun? Kink is really fun. You know, he's mixing house and techno and breaks, and it's just.
Sure.
What are two guys, two German guys that are kind of. Oh, my brain just went away. Oh, definitely nostalgia time for me again. We got the 90s, big chord stabs.
Yes.
Definitely party music right here. Yeah, it's juicy. Another vocal sample. I mean, good energy. New elements are coming in. Really, that's real smooth the way that bass is coming in right there. Nice modulating filter sweep there at the end of that section. Oh, it was Fiac that I was thinking of earlier. They're really fun. And they also have those ravey vibes, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's good.
Oh, this is a nice contrast. A little more dark bass line. All right, the Dominator sample is like... This is cheeky stuff, man.
I can make the sunrise take a little bit longer. I can make the dance floors just a little bit stronger. So y'all can stomp y'all's feet all night long. Clap y'all hands all night long.
Okay. Come on, rave. I'm gonna start gurning in a second. All right, this is fun. I'm gonna move in a little bit.
Yeah, it's fun. No, it's really fun.
Hear this last transition, and then we'll break it down. Okay. I think we got the vibe there. Fun stuff, right? Anything specific from you?
Yes. Well, great energy. And I really liked, it was fun. Is listening, like sometimes you don't know what's coming in, which I felt was, kind of caught my attention, and throughout the track, and a very fun way of using vocals, combining different vocal samples. Yeah, so
Sure.
yeah, I really liked it. It was like reminded me of the raves, back in the days.
Definitely. Well, it's obviously going for that very specific kind of feel. And, I appreciate that. Now, if we were to improve, what do you think? What would you go for first?
First, I felt like some of the vocal samples, maybe
Mm.
the balance can be, because some would just stick out, some would be a bit lower.
Levels are loud and different depending on what else is going on in the track. I think I thought I would agree. Like the mix balance it's good, it's clean, it's bright, it's energetic, but it's not balanced, right? I also worry about how loud that some of the hi-hats are. And, I don't know how much this has been processed on the master or whatever, but it is very bright. And I know like a lot of ravey music is bright, but I think it could be a little thicker, a little warmer overall. And the vocal levels, and then the sound, like some of the samples, like the siren and things like that. Like, even though like this kind of music it's kind of supposed to be crazy and going overboard, like, do we want to rein it in a little bit? Like, is there a balance to be made between like slightly more serious techno and fun ravey techno? Like, I always look for a balance. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think there needs to be a balance, because different systems, things can sound rough, and I think leveling things out and kind of having this balance, it just makes it better, easier to play in different situations.
Oh, sure.
I know, like, because it was like the energy, I think, behind when producing the track, like, came out on the hi-hats. I felt some parts were a bit too strong.
Yeah.
But I think it was just the energy behind it when producing the track. So I think just kind of listening it with fresh ears and giving it maybe a couple days, and then kind of focusing on the balance would really improve things in this track.
Cool. I agree. And otherwise, like I said, it's fun. I think, it's most of the way there. And I think there's plenty of DJs that would play this under the right circumstances. Just definitely get that mix under control. Maybe a little less bright. Get the vocal samples balanced. I think you're pretty good. And let's keep moving. I think we're starting to run a little long. We love talking about your music, but we're going to have to keep the pace going. Let's check out our next submission from Tom Relic, I hope, or Relic. Sorry. Need my reading glasses today, apparently. Capsule Hunter is the name of the track. Oh, I like this already. I love this kind of vibe. Swinging. Apparently this this track is edited and arranged together from a live jam on hardware.
Okay, wow, awesome.
So TR09 and JU06, so 909 and Juno 106 sounds, which you can do those chords right away sound like Roland polysynth. They sound like 80s Roland synthesizer, which there's one sitting right next to me off camera here. There's a Juno 106. I'm looking right at it. Sounds just like it.
I love the Juno 106.
Nice. The chord, it's the same chord over and over again. It's a nice chord.
Yes.
I mean, so far he's making the right moves with this. Like, this is for this style. I mean, this is definitely also a 90s kind of a underground deep techno vibe.
Yes.
Classic. I think I would say timeless, right?
Yes.
Christian would like this. He likes this kind of stuff too, right?
For sure, yes.
It's kind of like sunshiny, bright vibe, but also not like happy, right? It's kind of cool and moody at the same as it is upbeat. Just got a point added for the very, nice chord progression. Really good. Now we're getting into like, oh my gosh, Vince Watson kind of territory with that chord change. And now we're like closer to Detroit.
Yeah.
I mean, it says it right here. I don't know if you can read it. You can't see it. I'm sorry, D, but Rolando Los Hermanos inspired techno is what Tom writes in his... Yes, okay. Obviously now.
Yeah.
And there it is. Ba-ba, ba-ba. Endlessly modulating up. I think he kind of nailed that feel. Was there just a pitch bend in there? Yeah. It's something. It sounded like voices. All right, I would like musically, harmonically, we're expert level here. This is great for this style of techno. I was like, we need to speed up and go quicker, and I just have to listen to this whole track. How many minutes are we? Yeah, we're about 5 minutes. All right, I hate to ruin the vibe, but we know what this track is doing. It's almost over. I think it's just building and expanding and nice ascending chords and melody, and then he brings it back down at the end. So yeah, all right, you heard all. Like, I think both of us are in sync on we like this track a lot.
Yes.
And you know it is what it is. It's great. Put it out on, if this had been cut on a 12-inch. In 1997 or something, we would have been like, yeah. But listening to, I'm going to jump it straight into constructive criticism. Listening to it through the lens of modern day ears, ears. What metaphor did I just mix? Anyway, I think I would love to hear a cleaner, fuller mix on this, and I would like to hear more power in the low end. I know it's focused. I mean, it's mids focused because of the chords and the melody. Like that all sounds great, but it's a little crunchy. I don't know if you noticed. I think some of this was recorded live, and then some of it was added in plugins later. There's a little like, I don't know. There might even be clipping. I thought I heard some clipping on something, so that made it sound. And maybe you wouldn't notice that playing on a loud system, and it's all but. I feel like a deeper low end on this would have balanced the beauty of the mid-range and high frequency chords and melody so nicely. What would you say?
I totally agree. I mean the track itself I really liked it.
Mm-hmm.
Just musically it was really really good. And yeah, I would say the mix down, and definitely I agree with you. The lower end would be definitely give it more punch for modern day ear. Like the tom, when I heard it in the beginning too, I think that could have been a bit chunkier too.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, just at the very beginning, like it's very clean 909 samples, right?
Yes.
I think and it sounds like the instrument, but it could be it could just even be EQ and levels. Yes. That might be all you need to do, not to change the sounds that much. It's still going to have that classic vibe, straight out of the drum machine into the analog mixer kind of sound. But like by the time we get here, I don't know. I feel like it could come there. It could even just be levels. It could just be the kick and the low end needs to be a little bit louder.
Yes.
So it's a little more thumpy.
Mm-hmm.
That would be great.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's great. It's a really good track.
Oh yeah. I mean, I love it. Thank you,
production wise. Yeah.
Tom Relic, for making this. I really like it. Let's keep going. I mean, we're technically at the halfway point here. I'll just remind everybody that this is Selway Techno Saturdays on 343 TV, brought to you by 343 Labs Music Production School. And, this live stream that I do almost every week is one of the ways we reach out and build community here and, kind of grow things. And we hope that you will check out what we're doing with our online courses, in-person courses here in New York City and in Berlin. Check the links below for more information about all the classes we have to offer and our one-year program that we're starting up. And if you haven't already joined our Discord community, if you want, I've noticed in the chat, some of you are asking about submitting, and yes, it's a little too late. But if you want to, we're going to do more of these in the future. I'm going to have guests back and we're going to check out your tracks again. We do electro feedback sessions and techno feedback sessions on my show. And, you want to join the Discord, and then look for the Selway feedback channel, and I'll always announce ahead of time with plenty of time for you guys to get your tracks ready and submitted. So thanks everyone for hanging out today. This is going great. We've heard a lot of good tracks so far, and there are a lot more to go. So let's keep plugging on with Primal by Toen Fabric. Good, dark, mysterious vibe again. A little more. I like the little bendy diddy-doo sound in there, right? Like the reverby atmospheric drone in the back is nice. Interesting way that the ride cymbal was mixed and panned so far over. It was kind of like almost in the other room, like, and it had a kind of a soft. It was less percussive. It was just like noise pulse, but it was that ride cymbal with some effects on it. It's pretty nice. I think the photo up here that Toen Fabric is using, like, it kind of matches the music, right? That's for the viewers. Sorry, I can't. Normally I have my screen shared, the broadcast shared with my guests so they can see it. We have a different setup today. You'll just have to take my word for it, D. I like how some of that high frequency percussion kind of disappeared at an odd time.
Yes.
It was a good variation. This is getting scary. It's interesting how you can make like a groove with this energy level, but it's also very deep. And it just has like this kind of high flying forward momentum. He likes his flanger. So much techno, especially this kind of dark, strange, noisy techno, is all about effects. It's like drums and effects. Good arrangement. I like the fill. Someone did a fill for you.
Yes.
So far, so good. I'm just gonna jump in a little bit. Just hear if there's anything very different happening. Sounds like he's continuing with the same types of moves and variations. I mean, I think for a track like this, as a DJ, by that point, I'd already be well into another track, right? Mm-hmm. Yes. A lot, usually when you're playing stuff like this that's so kind of out there and trippy and more noise oriented rather than melody and like typical kind of structure. Like you're overlaying and mixing, and so from that perspective, this is a really great tool to like mix into any techno set.
How long is the entire track?
It's like 6 minutes.
6 minutes. Okay.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, it should, I mean, without adding new elements or making more kind of contrasty things, it probably shouldn't be much longer than that. But yeah, what would you say, like, in terms of, I think we're both on the same page and like what's cool about this track, right? What would you say that could be improved, if anything?
I just think overall, I mean, the sound parts and everything, it just worked. They were really well together, but some parts it kind of sounded like I just didn't know what was going on. I think maybe
that might have been by design. Like,
yeah, but
it's another one of those eyes closed, where am I moments, right? Like,
yeah. I would say maybe kind of making some space, a bit of space between the sounds, could make it have like more effect.
Do you mean space over time in the arrangement or in the mix?
In the mix.
Okay, so
between frequencies.
I see. There is a lot of overlap with the effects between like the high frequency. They're noisy, right? So there's the high frequency percussion layers, and then there's like the stuff on like the flangey synthy stuff that they kind of that could be addressed in the mix, right? And that could be, you could be technical, like you're doing crazy side chaining and you're using track spacer, and you're like, or you're just being really careful with EQs. I could see that, like opening it up like that, making, also, in terms of the arrangement, I mean, the most dramatic moment is here, where I like that, and then
very nice.
I wanted this to drop down even more. I think in here he needs to lose the atmospheric stuff and just be like kick and weird bassy synthy thing.
Yeah, that would totally work.
Or just like that, where it's more contrast with this. Yeah, I think it could, like that, and it's not going to be exactly anticlimactic, right? Because like the energy has been pretty consistent the whole time. I wanted to hear more contrast at this moment. Yeah, that's all I would say. I think this is a really cool track, good sound design. It's cool. Very techno, very futuristic and out there. And he's got his moody, black and white, depressed techno artist photo to go with it, which I have done myself. I'm not knocking it. So, all right, let's keep going. We have got next Minor Joy, level 4. Ooh, brutal. That is rough. Kind of industrial sounding.
Yes.
I'm getting like 90s Regis or Sheep Records, or do you know that label?
Yes.
How many of you in the chat know a techno label called Sheep? Crunchy.
Wow.
There's a lot of dirty low end in that kick. It's like brrr, like rumbly underneath there from all the its distortion. Now this is pretty underground sounding. Also, hardware-based, recorded live. So this is not arranged in a DAW. This is like a live jam, basically, I guess.
Live jam, okay.
Or a live performance. I mean, they're just tracking into stereo. So the mix is, you know, changing the mix means recording it again. I think, unless they multi-tracked it. I'm gonna jump in a little bit. I mean, as ever, adding high-frequency percussion to build your energy is a thing to do. Especially in a live jam, it's like one of the easiest ways to progress your track. And then take the kick drum out. Tweak your synths. Sorry if I'm skipping through too much. I'm just really keenly aware that we're going to run out of time and we have to keep moving. There's a new element coming in.
Yeah.
Fits the groove. It's a little moodier, but it's not taking the energy down. Or at least if it is, it's doing it at an appropriate pace because we're about to come up to a break. Let's jump into that. Oh, wait, it got real noisy there for a second. Let's hear that. All right, so he's bringing it back here before it drops down, which I think was good. And this is definitely feeling it in the moment in the live jam. Anytime I've ever done this kind of jamming with hardware, this is always the part where I get nervous. Because if it doesn't come back in right, you can't fix it, right? You're like, that's it. It's that tightrope walk of live performance, which makes it so exciting. I think that's appropriate. Different. It's the groove changed, but not in too much of a way. It got smoother, a little less tweaky here. All right, someone in the chat said psytrance, and I absolutely disagree. No, it's tweaky and maybe trippy, but it's not psytrance. At least not by any modern standard. This is definitely techno. Acidy techno? I take away what I said earlier about cheap records because they didn't do trippy, tweaky stuff like this. Now it's more... I don't know. What am I thinking of? Like there were these like free parties where they played lots of trippy, acidy techno. Reminds me of that.
Yes.
All right, we'll jump in a little bit. This is a long track. It's 7.5 minutes. All right, this is good in this world, right? Of this kind of underground, raw, a little strange in a good way. Totally different vibe than anything else we've heard so far. I would say. What are your comments on this one?
I really like that kick, but I'm just curious to see how it's gonna sound on a big system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it sounds really good, like on headphones, but with a lot of distortion.
Yeah.
It's that's something I'm very curious about. But like the overall vibe was good, and like how things were slowly building up, with this sounds of this acidy sound coming in towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was very unique, and lots of power.
Sure, it definitely. You can tell that the live performance energy comes through, and it's funny. Like this, when I think of other tracks like this that I've heard that are like kind of raw and dirty like this, and it's like it's crunchy and distorted, and I do wonder what it would sound like on a big system. It might be overload. It could be something that mastering could take care of if this would be a release. Like if there's some frequencies that shouldn't be there. But also I know like it's kind of, it sounds like when we used to like overdrive our mixers and we didn't have compressors and a lot of classic techno was just like recorded too hot through analog preamps on cheap mixers like Mackies. It has that kind of vibe. And a lot of those tracks, you listen to them in your headphones or on your home stereo and you'd be like, this doesn't sound good. But then you'd play it out on a PA system in a warehouse and it would be amazing. So the proof is in the pudding. You'd have to test this. I mean, maybe if this was recorded live at a party and it was rocking, I would totally believe it, But yeah, and from a production DAW-based workflow, from my perspective, like nowadays when I do hardware jams, the few times that I do them, I try to record them multi-track, so I can capture the live performance and the spontaneous stuff, but then I can go back and like, okay, that one sound came in too loud, I can lower it, or I can pan things differently. I'm guessing the way this was recorded that it was probably straight to stereo and it's not multi-track. But the only other thing I would say for that, well, you go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, because I felt some of the sounds were like really kind of mono.
Yeah.
So if this can be spread out, I think it'll have like it'll sound fuller in general.
I agree entirely.
I think there's that one acidy sound that was really panned to the side.
Right, that helped.
Like the percussions, yeah.
But it was just one.
Other, stuff was. So if this was multi-track, then of course with spreading things out, I think this can work. But maybe just with mastering, they can maybe spread.
Yeah.
This can be spread a bit, and I think that would help too.
Also, just next time you record some new tracks, maybe do a little more pre-mixing before you hit record. Like, listen to, like, if you have a way of like panning your drum sounds, if you're playing out of a drum machine, if it's got a stereo output, maybe you can do a little stereo mix in the drum machine before it hits the recording. And if you've got multiple synths just on your mixer, just one a little left and one, like, if they're both in the mid-range, put one left, one right, just spreading things out a little bit is going to help a lot in sort of the overall balance. So, but yeah, I like it. Let's keep going. This is, Silver Knobs, HMDT. He's a regular. He's also producing on hardware. This track is called Vulners. A little bit electro-y, which I love. But I'm going to say it's more techno than electro. We'll allow it today, Silver Knobs. He's giving you those claps. Very hypnotizing. Yeah, I mean, this totally is like... Silver Knobs, you could have submitted this on an electro weekend or a techno weekend, and it fits either way. It's definitely right in between. And a little acidy, too. Referring back to the last one, like, this is a live jam that has a wide stereo mix. It is, and it sounds a little more polished. So this would be a good reference point. This part's making me feel uneasy. Like, what's going on? Something's coming. Definitely getting darker. Right, let's jump in a little bit. Some variation. I'll let this one play. Let's see where it goes. Where's the downbeat? Definitely feel the experimental nature of the rhythm in this. Like it's throwing out. It's not exactly polyrhythm. It's, if anything, it's polymetric. But yeah, it's like playing around with syncopation and where the beat feels straight or not, or it's highly syncopated. Even like it sounds like okay, that's the downbeat now, but sometimes it doesn't feel like that's the downbeat because of the kick drums. Definitely an experiment, and it's an interesting one. All right, so let's quickly go over what you thought was cool, and then jump into some constructive criticism for Silver Knobs.
Very hypnotic, very original, and yeah, it's just like you don't know what to expect in a good way. When during the break, when that bass pattern kind of came in, I was really surprised, and it kind of got me excited for what's gonna happen. And yeah, like good use of fills, like a clap fill, like there was that one clap going on. So yeah, very, very unique, very experimental. I kind of felt maybe the kick could be a bit heavier. And not too much probably with the pattern, but
Sure.
slightly heavier. I think it would have worked. And I don't know if the stereo was more of a delay or a reverb. There was always something moving around on the stereo, which was really nice. But I think maybe also moving some of the sounds, from time to time, kind of maybe using a panner or panning it using an automation to kind of pan things around. I think can also give it more.
Well, in a live jam, that could just be
space.
Moving the panning knobs yourself.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, from time to time.
I think it's a cool, again, it's experimental. It's pretty out there. It's just, it's a maker. Like some people are going to love it and then some people are not. And that's fine when you're doing music like this. Like you're going to find the people that want to hear this. This part I felt was a little muddy.
Yes.
This is the best groove, the best balance. Here, I mean, it kind of works too on its own, but I wish that the like synth was a little bit pulled back a little more. And maybe that's what you're talking about with like the drums, like because here it sounds like the drums are getting covered up. So this could be a level thing, and that's a hard thing when you're live jamming to like account for because you're bringing things in and out with faders sometimes. So you might go a couple dB up higher than you would if you were doing a careful mix in the moment, and that's just where it is, right? So. But and then I also know like Silver Knobs is making tons of tracks. He's posting them for feedback on the channel a lot. So I know, you're just cranking them out. Maybe, but that's just something the more you do it, the better you're going to get at like balancing your elements in real time like this. And again, I mean, I know this isn't everybody's workflow and it does overcomplicate things, but I'd love to hear what Silver Knobs would do with one of these tracks sometimes where he does one of these cool jams that's unique and interesting and experimental, but then multi-tracks it and then goes back and like perfects it. I would love to hear, because that's like a whole nother process to go through that not necessarily better, but different way of working on these tracks and giving you more possibilities. So anyway, cool stuff from Silver Knobs, HMTT, which is Handmade Detroit Techno, I believe is what HMDT stands for, if I remember correctly. Now let's move on to Dog Ed. I think the first time, this is a repeat submission as well. We've had Dog Ed on before, and I said it like Doggy Ad, but it's Dog Ed. Like dog head without the H. And Fine Dogs, keeping the dog theme going. A little bit of a jacking vibe. Like weird Chicago. I like how that hi-hat came in, it's like a little soft sounding. It doesn't have a sharp transient. It's kind of little, it's not perfectly quantized. It's giving it a little wiggle. I like that. And the kick drum's interesting. It's not typical for this kind of track, I would say.
Yes.
It's a little more strict and EBM-like shape to that kick. And not DM, EBM. I'm thinking more industrial late 80s. What is that? This one's full of surprises. What are you thinking, D?
Yeah, I didn't expect this background vocal coming in. Yeah.
No.
I'm curious to know how it's gonna come in. There it is.
There it is. It's just still going. Sorry, we're talking over the break, but I don't think it matters. This is pretty intense. Oh, that's another Mentasm Dominator sample.
Yeah. Wow. I thought it was a vocal.
Yeah, the way it was filtered, it had some formants in it.
Yes.
That sound has been used so many times. It's really hard to use it in a new way. I think this track might have achieved that, at least in a atypical way, an unexpected way.
Yeah. Definitely a first for me to hear the way that this is used.
I like it. It's dark and weird, but also kind of strangely positive feeling.
Yes.
It's like when blues music can feel happy. You know? Yeah, this is cool. It's unique. All right. Ends like it starts. That's a fun track. That's like,
Yes.
you know, and there may be elements of this that were, you know, maybe your taste or not, just like the last couple things, like the kind of a little bit more experimental, strange techno vibes. But this one definitely has like a more easy dance floor appeal than the last one, right? The more challenging experimental rhythms. This one is pumping, jacking, right? Like people will dance to this. And then it's just down to like whether they like the vibe of the weird vibe of the sounds. I like we both like how it's using that Dominator Mentasm, whatever. That's the Roland Juno 2 What the preset, if anybody didn't know that. That was actually a preset on a synth in the 80s that makes that sound. What do you think? Like, we know what we like.
Yeah.
What would you improve? What would you
The Dominator, it was like a completely new way of using it, which was really cool. And but I felt maybe it can be maybe slightly louder or fuller in the mix.
But it's so busy though. How could you be louder without taking over?
So I think EQing would probably you have to really be careful with the EQ, because just bringing up the balance, I think it's going to be too much. And also maybe playing around a bit with the filters, or maybe even like an LFO and some parts.
So it isn't straight the whole time.
Yes.
One thought I had is is there a part where it's by itself? I think if there had been a section where the main dot 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 dot, like if that went away and it was just like the drums and the Mentasm sample as like a section, that
would work.
That would work too. Is like, so then you wouldn't have to worry about turning it up louder. You would feature it in the arrangement, or you could do a little of both. And you're right, it might be just some EQing. I like that the kick drum is different, and this could be just like a really tight saturated 909 or something like that. I feel like a slightly boomier kick drum might have worked, a subbier kick, like a little bit of a longer tail on this, or both. Like, I love it when on live 909 jams where you make the kick drum shorter and then you make the kick drum longer, and when the parts, when you want it to have more heavy impact, right? That would be, like if you start out with it like short and tight in the beginning, and then it's here where it's crazy. Now you got boom, boom, like you have more sub in the kick. That would be amazing. I'm sure people will go off to that. All right. Nice work, Dog Ed. Again, thanks for the unique music. Now we've got Audio React, by Joe Montana. Speaking of heavy kick drums, we're basically hardcore at this point. I need to go get my tracksuit. It's not Gabber though. It's not Gabber. Woo! What BPM are we here? Like 160?
Yeah, that's quite fast.
About 150 something. I just tapped it out.
150, okay. Wow.
That was good. And it went away.
Very nice. Yes.
Good move. This is a 6 minute and 42 second track. That's long for a fast kind of hardcore. Whoa. Okay, nice. What synth is that? Could be a SH-101 through distortion or something similar. Now, energy-wise, it's pretty crazy. Sounds like things are blowing up. Let's cut in a little bit. Whoa. Yeah, definitely back on the 90s ravey vibe, obviously. But part of that isn't just the tempo and the way the drums are programmed, but how the track progresses. How it's arranged.
Definitely.
Nice pitch modulation. Nice edit there.
Yes,
all right, let's jump in a little bit. Got the main synth bass coming back in with some really kind of scary, weird, trippy noises on top. Lots of fun arrangement moves in this. Lots of good progression. All right. And I think by this point, like I had to skip through it. Like, let's talk about already what we need to work on. We know what's working with this, right? The energy, the vibe of it. That's some cool sounds. I think it's pretty clear. You probably would agree. It's pretty clear what needs to be worked on. I'm gonna let you dive right in.
I think maybe the track could be shorter overall. Because there's a lot of things going on.
Yeah.
Maybe simplify that in some parts. I really love the tricks that with the pitch shift and everything. But if things keep happening for a long time. Like this can get, I think, as a track, a bit too much.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe, shortening this some parts, I'm simplifying it. I think would be good. And
Right.
I also felt like a lot of this, maybe that main synth sound, that lead sound, could be more widened.
Sure.
Stereo.
Sure.
Because it felt like everything was kind of, especially after the break when everything came in, it just felt like everything was just together. I think if this can be spaced out, that it can bring the impact even more.
I think in general, I mean, other than like, all right, what you said, editing, arranging wise, a track with this much, at this speed, with this much variation in the first 3 minutes doesn't need to be 6 minutes long, really. No DJ who plays this kind of music is going to ever play it that long. If you were a live act and you're rocking the crowd and you want to keep jamming this track out for 6 minutes because it's working, maybe. But I don't think, like, when I hear DJs that play this kind of music, they don't play tracks for 6 minutes unless it's psytrance. Then it's like 10 or 15 minutes. But I think the biggest issue, though, like other than condensing it and getting to the point more quickly and not having it be overdone in terms of the arrangement, is the mix. It is messy. And the kick has power, it has energy, but it's kind of thin for this type of music. I think this whole mix needs more low end energy, and I think it's a lot of it's in the middle. There's a lot of mid range build up. It's like it needs to be opened up and deeper, and maybe more careful panning, and then with a really excellent mix, this is definitely going to get played by the DJs that play harder. Because it's got everything else it needs. So that's what I would work on the most, is like checking out, like, what are some tracks you really like that are really rocking tracks from producers that you like that DJs are playing that are in this level of energy and BPM, and like listen to how they're balancing their elements and try to use that as what might be a goal to shoot for your own mix. Otherwise, I mean, I like it. I like hard stuff like this sometimes. Maybe not all night. But at the end of a set, the build up to this is so much fun.
Yes.
And what are some DJs that, like, there's DJs out there that there's a lot of pumping fast ravey techno out there, especially from some really big DJs. There's this kind of EDM, hardcore techno kind of crossover at certain points, and like people calling trance techno nowadays, which is something that is happening a lot, especially like on social media. Like a lot of techno on TikTok is actually trance, hard trance and acid trance stuff. It sounds like it's from the 90s, but mixed like it's 2023. I like this better than most of that stuff because it's raw and a little weird. But yeah, what are some DJs that play stuff like this right now? I'm asking the chat, by the way, but you can answer too.
Okay.
I'm going to move on to, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We've got 7 tracks in 15 minutes. I don't know if we can do it. We're going on too long because all of your tracks, all of these tracks have been so good. We have so much to say about them. Let's move on to, Palms Audio, Untitled 15, another really unique techno track name. Oh. Record crackle noise in the back. I'm gonna turn this down a little bit. It's pretty loud. It's mastered very loud. I like this groove. And the bass of that is really good too. The low end is really deep in a good way. See, that's like the kind of rumble I want nowadays. Not like a bunch of reverb on a kick, but like a rhythmic, precise, rolling low end mixed in with the kick. Yeah, this is tight. Yeah. The image on SoundCloud for this track, since you can't see it, D, is just a white label, like a vinyl label. Like, I would totally expect this track on a white label randomly in the bin at a record shop, not knowing who made it. cool, weird vocal samples. Remember the Not a Madonna remix? The way these vocals are cut up that fit with the rhythm, that's what I was talking about. Interesting. I mean, really, that's sophisticated. Rhythmically, like coming in with this little sort of slightly ravey lead melody and then bringing it back in with the beat, but then doing a polymetric or polyrhythmic like techno pattern with it. Nice move. More melody. Interesting. It's going in a different direction than I expected. We're into ravey trancey mode now. This is very modern. Definitely not 90s at all. Not even 2000s. This sounds very current. Let's jump in a little bit. Let's see where it goes. Still developing the melody and the energy levels coming back. And we have another break. Some variation. We'll let it drop and then we'll break it down. Or see what comments we've got. Okay. Nice. There's a lot to like in there. It's unique for sure. Yes. It's really well mixed. Generally, like groove. The groove is amazing. That's the absolute best part about it. Really right away, we were like, "Yep,
love the low end."
Cool. Now, what do you think? What could be worked on?
I think like towards the end, or towards probably like when the synths and the melodies started coming there, it would be good probably to have some parts where it kind of all the melodies drop, and just back to something really percussive. Maybe after the break, to kind of switch it back. And I felt maybe a little bit less elements in the synth. Would be to keep it more simple. Because the groove is great, the distortion percussion was great. And I mean, so I think keeping that as the main focus probably would be cool. And in the break, I think these melodies work. Yeah,
I think there are tracks where the melody continues all the way through. It is possible to do that. In this case, what's best about this track? The drum programming, the bass, the cut-up vocal samples, and when the melody is more minimal and rhythmic. It's awesome. I would totally play that if I were still DJing. I would, but once it starts becoming a little too long, drawn out, sustained, the synths are very loud, and then we're missing. It's taking over, right? Like I want this for most of the track.
Yes.
This is fun. People will be bouncing to this, and this part with the vocals that should have happened again. And this part was teasing in the melody, and then it goes back to that's great.
Yes.
Up until this, no change to the track at all up until this point. And then this is great. And then you go back to that. Instead of, you see, I would just simplify, right? Yes. Repeat the parts that are the best parts. Reduce the long, like having the synth in there so much. Anyway, this is quality. This person is making some good choices. So, nice work. All right, next, as we start rushing after starting too slow in the beginning, this always happens. Just so you know, we always take our time in the beginning. In the end, we're like, I want to give people what they deserve that we promised. but also we're running out of time, so we really have to be careful. Let's listen to A106 by Buoys, something like that. Trippy. Nice hi-hats.
Yeah.
Ooh, loud. Cool, but loud. Oh, I like delay with a little bit of feedback. Gets really stimulating with that buildup of resonance.
Yes.
Interesting variation in the low bass part. It's a bass part, but it's playing it like a tom fill almost.
Yes.
This is pretty out there. I'm seeing things in the desert or something.
Yeah.
Interesting. Kind of a striking sound.
Yes.
It's very sharp and clean, but also the atmosphere is very interesting. It's almost bell-like. I know this is going to eat up all our time, but I feel like we have to listen to how this comes back. All right, let's jump in a little bit. Some of those sounds from the beginning are coming back. The hi-hats are coming back. Okay. A little bit of variation there with the pitch on that sound. All right, I mean, some unique stuff going on in this sonically.
Yes.
Like cool sounds, different, right?
Yes, very cool. Very cool.
What have you got to say? And don't be afraid to just dive right into the constructive criticism part.
Really like the groove and that one sound, but definitely that was loud, especially when the resonance came in.
Yeah.
Because it kind of builds up, and I would kind of adjust that, and then maybe having a bit more elements could also help. Because it was mainly the groove and the sound, and the break was really nice. But maybe like I don't know, another synth or even just percussions can, like hi-hats and stuff, variations, and that can give it a big change.
I think like the way it comes back in after the break, I mean, it's so striking. It's really cool. And, you know, I see it's a little granular sounding. I definitely, there's a comment in here in the chat noticing that's got those little chopped up, glitchy vibes going on in there, which is great. The way I think we need to give that sound space. It's so striking, but it's also so, it's like if you do it so much, it loses what's striking about it. So it's something that needs to go away or change somehow to contrast, right? And then, if it were to come back a little after the break with a new element as well, it's also droney. If you were to do some elements which are not, even if they're musical, like a chord stab, or it could be, voices, spoken word, play around with weird samples, anything that could tell a little bit more of a story, especially like from the break to the end. It changes very subtly. Even just dropping through, I didn't hear any like major changes in energy. So I would find ways to create space and contrast, because like it is in the beginning. When does that happen again? Maybe at the very end? Yeah. So I would break it down to this level much sooner, and then also create a unique new element to contrast the other very striking kind of granular, cool melodic stuff. Right. Onward we go. Okay, we got to go back to the Discord. One of these posts is not on SoundCloud. It's just a track uploaded to the Discord channel. This is a techno track. It doesn't have a name, by Voltage. Sorry. See if I can change the volume without turning it off again. All right, still in kind of hypnotic mode with this one too, right? A little faster, a little more clean. I could see this slightly in a trancey direction, right? But the energy's good.
Yes.
Nice punch to the kick drum. The energy and the sound of the chord stabs that came in is working pretty well.
Yes.
Gonna jump in a little bit here. All right, building up the high-end percussion, opening the filters. Let's see how this break works out. All right, it's right at 2 o'clock. Do you think about whether we can go longer or whether we should wrap it up? I'll leave it up to you as the guest.
Sure, we can go a bit longer.
Okay. All right, then we'll try to get through 4 more after this, and then we'll be good.
Okay.
There's some claps for you again. I'd say that's an effective anti-climax drop, right? Like,
yes.
It makes it seem smoother. I mean, overall effective break, right?
Yes.
Let's go in forward a little bit more. Okay. And then we come down for a landing. Yeah, I think this is solid, right? Arrangement-wise, solid. Energy level, solid. What do you think what could be worked on?
I would say the mix down. Overall, like I kind of felt, especially like the percussion, the hi-hats, maybe they were a bit low in level. Some of it can be more out in the front. Everything it was very clean overall, but just kind of adding that energy, back and forth. I think maybe the hi-hat could have been a bit louder. And some parts of this that chord that came in, maybe opening that up a bit with filter might have also be effective, because it kind of was very like wobbly like the whole time, but kind of opening that might change a bit of the kind of brightness of the track in some parts. I think this can be a good contrast, but overall I thought the sequence and everything was good. So I would say a bit on the mixed down side.
I think I agree with you. And then just in the construction of it, some of the parts, this is not a knock, but this is a little bit in that like trancey 90s stuff that's pretty popular again right now, that I was kind of referring to a little bit. It's riding that line. Like it's kind of ravey, trancey. It's kind of techno. It's definitely very current in terms of like popular types of dance music. Style wise, it's kind of, on that line again. I wanted it to be a little tougher. I mean, again, like and not just to make it more techno. I think even if you were going in a more trancey direction, I feel like it needs a bit more bass energy. The chords that come in, like it's also whooshy and dreamy with the trancey lead and the reverb. I felt like the chords would be better if they were thicker and sharper. Okay, how do you be thick and sharp at the same time? I mean, like denser, let's say, like a little drier, a little less resonant, a little tighter, even a little more low frequency in there. Because there's kind of there's a kick, and there's like it's got that kind of rumble kick in between. There's no bass, right? I would love to hear this with a bass sound, a bass line that fits with the chords. Even if you just played the root of the chords on a thicker bassy sound, boom, 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 that would go a long way to giving this a little more drive and energy, filling in that space of the frequency range, and then also, rhythmically adding to the energy. I think that's what I would, what you said about the mix for sure, but then even just overall musically, like adding a bass line to fill in that space and add the energy, and then taking those chords and making them, I mean, you could automate them, modulate them to have them be more dreamy and reverby and resonant sometimes, but then when the kick drum comes in, bring them back down to be more tight and powerful and more integrated with the low end. I think that would make this, would take it a step up for sure. All right. Anyway, good submission from Voltage. Thanks very much. Let's get through these last four. We've got S Tier with a track called Techno New Kick New 2. So, under construction, I would imagine. Nice. Very clean. I mean, powerful and thick, but also clean. Yes. Good mix so far. Right away. Sounds like a FM synth doing the bass. This is nice. Very. It's got this rolling atmosphere. It's kind of tough and clean and nice all at the same time. I'm going to jump in a little bit. Highly compressed mix. I mean, I turned the volume down and I feel like I still have to shout over it to hear myself. I like the vibe. All right. I like this little atmospheric exchange in this part. Okay. Right, I'm gonna just quickly. It took a while to get there. Oh, there's good stuff going on in this track. I mean, it's well mixed. It's powerful and it's clean. It's got a vibe. It's got energy. I think there are some things though that we should talk about. What would you say in terms of improvements?
I would say the very last part actually that when you just turn it off right before, like where the hi-hats came in, like maybe like repeating that for some parts would give that contrast, but and the energy basically of dropping and then getting intense. I think just having that like from part to part would I feel improve things. I think overall the track was very well produced. The balance, the mix down was really nice. Like the stereo widening and everything. Each sound had a very nice space. But I just kind of thought maybe the bass line and the kick, the low end, maybe I don't know if there was enough sub. Can it be a bit chunkier on the low end?
You could kind of hear it in the beginning. Like here it sounds fine. Maybe a little more thump in the kick drum, but
yeah,
I don't think the problem that there isn't enough bass. I think the problem is that the chords are too loud. The mid-range and the high stuff is too loud compared to the bass. And I mentioned while we were listening that the whole mix is very compressed. It might, it might be over compressed. I think it could be that we're losing low end because when, if you're slamming the limiter, right? That stuff's, we're hearing the mids and the bright stuff more, which is that's what happens when you compress a mix. Basically, it sounds brighter even before you touch an EQ. So if you want to squash it that much, you need to pull some of the certain frequencies back so you don't lose the balance. I think. Aside from mix issues and whether the master bus is too squashed or not, arrangement wise, it's a really long track. It's over 8 minutes, I think.
Okay.
And once the chord progression comes in, I don't believe it ever stops. That would be the first thing that I do. Okay, aside from maybe pulling the level of the chords down a little bit in the mix, would be figuring out where I can create change. Even just having, like, if you think of it as there's, when it's in the beginning, it's just before the chords come in, it's just sustaining that one note. That's like the A section. And then the B section is when it does the da, 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 right? That's the B section. You need to go back to the A section where you're not doing that progression with the chords, or it changes. I mean, it doesn't have to be sophisticated as the Los Hermanos tribute earlier, but where it's very sophisticated harmony and developing progressions. But I think if you're not going to do that, you need to change it at some point. Take that away. Also, have it go back down to just the bass and percussion sometimes, so that when you bring the chords back in again, they mean something. After it's like any sound. Sometimes it depends on the sound. Some sounds you can repeat forever and ever and ever, and you never get tired of them.
Yes,
Others, they only work for a little while, and then you have to take them away and then bring them back to bring the impact back again. So
yeah,
cool.
Totally. It's about bringing it in and removing it. It's like unless there's some really complicated things going on.
Yeah,
it's generally best to some parts remove it.
Yeah,
and then just bring it back in. That makes a big difference overall.
And this track, unless you're going to make it more epic and more musical and more variety, it doesn't need to be 8 minutes. I would say 6 minutes with the break closer to the middle. The first half of it could happen faster. All right. Yeah. And otherwise, nice track. Thank you.
Yes, very nice.
All right, now we've got M Bend 1 by Kenny Toen. Whoa. Suddenly in the thick of it. It's like alien horns or something. This is out there. This sounds really striking. This is different. I mean, I have heard some techno that has these kind of vibes before, that are kind of lush and rich and odd harmonically. I like this. Left turn. On its own, interesting. I like the melody and the sound. And this is a short track. The last one was 8 minutes. This one's 3.
Okay.
Another turn. Unusual. But also interesting unto itself. I feel like if I skip around too much, I'm going to miss things. There's a lot of variation in a short amount of time.
Yes.
The groove is changing here. I mean, this is some cool kind of apocalyptic, crazy sci-fi stuff. I like that. And then we have a fade out. All right. There's some really cool stuff where it's fading out. What's going on here? Why is it doing that? No, there is a lot to like in here.
Yes.
I'm curious as to the intentions of this person. Like, what were they trying to achieve with this? What do you have to say about this one?
This one, I would say, is stretch things out. And I think 3 minutes for this many things going on, because the parts actually are very cool, like each part, but there is so much going on, so much changes happening in a very short time. So I think if this track is meant to be kind of like a tool to be used, during a set, it might work, but as a track, I think it should be a bit longer. And maybe less variation. Maybe choose some parts that you really like for example the last part where the groove changed and it just became the percussion with some sci-fi sounds. Like that was really cool. So like using that maybe, but with the synth parts, using a bit less. And also, I think starting the track, having that synth from the beginning, I think it's maybe better to fade in.
Sure.
Yeah.
This sounds in a way to me like an excerpt from a bigger recording, because it suddenly starts, but it's like a little fade into it's already going, right?
Yeah.
And then it fades out at the end. So I'm wondering, that's why I'm curious, like, how was this put together and what was the intention? Is this just a piece of a larger amount of work or a larger recording? I feel like there's like at least 2 different tracks worth of elements in this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's sort of 3 major sections. And each one of those sections could be elements from a different track. Even though the drums are largely the same, each part is cool unto itself, but I'm not saying that they all have to always fit together, and maybe that's the point. Maybe you do want these disjointed suddenly becoming something else, that vibe, right? It's like, this is cinematic in a way where you can have sudden changes in visual and mood like that, right? So if this is intended to be tracks to play in a set at a party, okay, if this was part of your live set, then maybe it makes sense in the hour-long set overall. If this were like a track to put out as an individual track on a release, or to get to play as a DJ, I would definitely take like the strongest parts of this and then work with that over a longer period of time. Or if you are going to have all these 3 sections happening, not fit them all in the 3 minutes, but fit them into 5 minutes. Let each part develop and work and more naturally go into the next thing. I don't know. There's a lot of different ways this could go.
Yes. I think you can even have like a part 1 and part 2.
Sure, why not? Okay, but yeah, very interesting, cool sounds from Kenny Toen. Thanks very much. We've got 2 more. I noticed that we had a submission. There's a link here in the chat. I just want to apologize because we had all of the submissions for today's feedback session over a couple of weeks, and we closed submissions yesterday. But I would ask you, if you haven't already, to join our Discord. There's a link below, and we'll, next time we have a feedback session, I'll announce it ahead of time, and then you can submit ahead of the day. I'd be happy to give you some feedback in the future. Anyway, so here's our second to last. This is Launch by Steve Leich, one of those. I'm getting Polygon Window Quoth vibes from this all of a sudden. I don't know, do you remember that track? Aphex Twin thing?
Yes.
Sounds big, like wide.
Yes.
Open. Cool stereo image and effects moving around. Lots of variation right away.
Yes.
Acidy stuff coming in. Not how I expected the beat would come back. That's interesting. All right. More new stuff happening. There's a lot of progression going on in this, which is cool. Either that or there's something uncovered that I didn't notice before. A lot of attention to detail, things coming in and out. Here's where I'm crossing my fingers. Let's see what happens. Went the anticlimax route. I have some thoughts. Let's jump in a little bit. All right, bringing back in the synthy stuff, the effects. Okay. All right. Interesting. Like it has a unique vibe overall, right? This sound, you know, it sounds different than a lot of the other stuff we've heard today. What do you think?
I felt I really liked the variation in the percussions and how sounds were being removed. It was very cool, and I thought it was very good. And the how it comes in after the break was very unique too. I think it was the first break how it came in. I just felt maybe it was a bit like there's a lot of reverb going on. I think, overall, and that's why it was kind of hard to. Things weren't too clear. I would say everything was kind of mixed with the reverb. I think maybe even the kick had a kick in the bass. Maybe had some reverb. So maybe lessening that and making the kick in the bass stand out more could change things, improve things. I feel.
I agree. It's a dense mix. There's a lot of effects and a lot of spatial effects, and there's also it's very saturated too. So I wouldn't say it's. I mean, it's not it's not like a dirty mix, right? It's not like it's clipping, but like there's some level of kind of noisiness to it in the mids that I would think come from like pushing saturation a little bit or something. And that would be fine if it were balanced with the strong low end. The kick is thin. There's not a lot of depth to the low end. So yeah, I think that a cleaner, clearer mix of this, pulling back some of or just balancing the dry and the wet things a little bit better. It's like you can have lots of reverb, but like you also it has to be a balance with other things. You know, just think like if, you know, I've done mixes with lots of reverb on everything, but the thing that makes it work besides EQing carefully is different reverbs on different elements. This sounds like a lot of stuff going through the same reverb, and it just builds up and builds up and builds up. And I don't know that for sure, but that's something to think about if you like lots of space and lots of, you know, reverb and spatial effects in your mix. There still needs to be balance and contrast. So like one sound might have a darker, longer reverb, another sound might have a shorter, brighter reverb, and then they don't step on each other. It doesn't become a whooshy, noisy mess of reflections. That and then bass, like that kick needs thump, and the bass needs depth, and then this will definitely, as interesting as it is, work even better. All right, we're on to our last. Whoa. That actually, no, I'm sorry. That was our last submission because the last tab was you. We made it to the end. We did it.
Okay.
We're only 25 minutes off schedule.
Yeah, no, it's very, it's really great to be able to listen to all these tracks with, you know, new like ideas. Like it was like inspiring for me too. I you know, some ideas like I would have never thought of. So,
definitely.
Yeah, always, you know, you always learn.
I agree. Like it's one of the reasons that I like doing this is, I mean, I like doing this kind of, you know, constructive criticism and, you know, but I also hear all these different ideas from different people and, you know, I'm pleasantly surprised very often. Right. And so, yeah, it's also learning for us as well.
Yes. Nice.
Well, I don't want to keep you too long. I know it's very late where you are. You're in such a radically different time zone in Tokyo, and I'm here in New York. And I just want to thank you again very much for being my guest today. It was really great having you.
Thank you.
And
thank you for having me.
Sure.
It was great. Really great. Yeah. I had a lot of fun.
I would absolutely love to have you on again sometime in the future if you're interested. maybe
Yes,
to do,
definitely.
because very few of my guests are working in Logic, and it might be interesting to do like a Logic thing sometime if you're up for it.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great.
Not
That'd
to
be
put
great,
you on
man.
the spot, but think about it. And
Yeah, okay.
thanks to everyone watching today, and especially all of you that
Yeah.
submitted. Really great
Thank
work,
you very much.
keeping the
Yes,
quality up.
Thank you very much.
And enjoy your week, everybody. Actually, before I say see you next week, it's summer and the schedule is changing, and I just want to double check and see, do we have one more stream before we go? And today's the 24th, right? So July 1st, yeah, we're going to do one more stream on July 1st, and then I'm out of town. I'm traveling with my family. So July's pretty much out. I probably won't be back on until the end of the summer, sometime in August. So I just want to thank everybody now. We'll call this, I guess this is kind of the end of the season. I want to thank everybody for watching all this year and being a part of the community and contributing your tracks for these feedback sessions and everything. So all of you, I'm really glad to have you here in the chat, and I'll see you, I guess, at the beginning of the next season later in the summer. Everybody enjoy your summer months and have a good one. Adios.
Thank you.
Millennium sound. It takes you to the zone. In the zone, you're free.
to move through the stars. In the zone you see, the Zoid never dies.